Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the podcast where a real statistics professor
and his cousin Jared
gives you sports betting tips. I am Professor Sides. You can follow me on Twitter at Professor Sides, and you can follow my cousin Jared on Twitter at Cousin Jared. Today is Thursday, April 14th, 2022. This episode covers all of today's Major League Baseball games. In case you're new here, I built a mathematical model for win probability, and I analyze weather data in order to come up with some picks on totals. I'll make a pick on every game that's played Monday through Saturday. That doesn't mean I recommend you do the same. I'm just giving you information as to what I like the most and where my head is for each matchup. As I go through the plays, remember that there are no locks in gambling, so I'll give you our loves, likes, and leans to help you decide which picks you might want to play and how I recommend scaling your wagers. With that in mind, please understand that good and bad variance will occur, so as much as I'd like to say we'll be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Thankfully, back on the profit train yesterday. First week, we had 5 out of the 6 days profitable. If we can do this every set of 7 days, Cousin Jared, we'll all be thrilled, right?
This will be the greatest gambling baseball season of all time, if that's the case.
Exactly. It's one of those, like, I'd love to keep doing that. Unfortunately, I don't think it'll be quite that good.
Yeah.
So if we're on the season 7% ROI, so I mean, if we could hover anywhere near that, that'd be fantastic. So we've set a high bar. We'll have to see if we can continue to meet it. And I know we kind of briefly talked about this, but we haven't seen you in a week. But props to you for mentioning the Diamondbacks bringing in Brett Strom and how that was going to help their pitchers go from really bad last year to pretty respectable this year so far. They've gone under in 5 of their 6 games.
Yeah, you are welcome for all of those profits on the Diamondbacks that you've gotten so far this season. I like to think that I get at least half of that.
You definitely do get some of that. Absolutely. Before we get to today's slate, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free, and it's the only way to ensure that you don't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. Share with a friend if you know others in the game. Hit us up on Twitter or drop a comment if you're on YouTube. We love those and try to respond to as many as we can. We've got a couple afternoon games here today on this Thursday. First one will be a 1:10 Eastern first pitch, Athletics at the Rays. Cousin Jared, lead us off.
So if any of you have been keeping up with me over on BetStamp, and that's Cousin Jared on BetStamp as well, you probably know where I'm going on this game. So, Professor, I think this needs to be said, and I'm not saying that our dear listeners need to hear this, but I'm saying some people out there definitely need to hear this. The A's and the Orioles are going to combine to win like 120 games this year. Okay, there is going to be a lot of value on these two teams, especially with some of the crazy odds that we've been seeing for both of them so far. So, and the other thing is, I can't believe we got to the window with Oakland on Sunday. Well, the professor didn't make any picks on Sunday. Maybe somebody else did. They got us to the window on Sunday, got us to the window on Monday, got us to extras on Tuesday, got us to the window on Wednesday. I don't know what's going on here, people. So it is an easy play for me. I'm backing the A's here again. Are they going to win? Probably not. I mean, they're not the best team, but I mean, there's just a lot of value here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm giving out a B pick here on Oakland plus 184. The model thinks this number should be 164. That's just a crazy amount of value here. Josh Fleming for the Rays, not like bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I mentioned this earlier in the week, and I feel like I'm going to have to keep saying this just as a reminder for people. Like, there are certain pitchers that I don't mind laying a minus 200 or more with, but Josh Fleming is not one of them. And you talked about like the Orioles. Absolutely, there's probably going to be some value in the Orioles. Some years there is, some years there isn't. But with Oakland this year, specifically, like, I get that they traded all their players away, but like they could go find like 9 random dudes from like, ex-high school players that are in their mid-20s and probably still win 60 games. Like, this is what they do. Like, they had some guy last night make like a gold glove play at third base. I'm like, I've never even heard of this guy. Like, he's probably going to end up hitting 15 home runs too. Like, this is what Oakland does. Like, they aren't going to win 90 games this year, but like, would anybody be surprised if Oakland hangs in there, makes a couple of like random trades to pick up some other like veteran type players at the deadline, and all of a sudden wins like 85 games and like competes for the wild card? Everyone would be like, yeah, that's what Oakland does every year, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense why this number is so out of hand. So yeah, I'm with you. Oakland plus 184 as a B pick for me to start us off. And then the other afternoon game, Mariners at the White Sox. The weather on this one is a fascinating story. We've got 30-mile-an-hour sustained winds.
Wow.
Blowing kind of out to left field up to 50-mile-an-hour gusts. The question here just a slight shift in how the system comes in, and it's going to feel more across, which would just push balls foul versus out. So, I mean, it's very fine line between, is it going to be more out to left or more across to left? So just a crazy weather situation there. Because of that, I'm staying away from the total, which is at 9.5 right now. Logan Gilbert versus Jimmy Lambert. I'm going to give you a B pick on the White Sox minus 104. The model thinks it should be White Sox minus 114. So I'm just going to trust the model. Early in the season, it's a pretty easy thing to do. Just kind of trust the math and say that we've got some stuff figured out and let the books catch up to where we are. I trust my numbers here. So I'm going White Sox minus 104 with the B pick. Because, Jared, what do you got?
Yeah, so in situations like this, I look at the line. I have no feeling one way or the other. I hear the professor's analysis on the weather and don't really feel good about that either. So for me, this is a stay away right now. What I'll usually do is, I know the professor's line is say minus 114 or whatever it is. If we get some additional value, if the White Sox get closer to even money, it's probably something I'll play. But since I don't have really strong feelings about it right now, I'm going to pass.
Alrighty. A late afternoon first pitch, 5:14 Eastern, 4:14 Central. Weird time because of opening day festivities here. Cardinals at the Brewers. Wainwright versus Woodruff should be a pretty good pitching matchup here. The model makes this Brewers minus 136 right now. They're minus 135, but I don't think you could pay me to back the Brewers against a real team with how bad their offense has been. The total is 8, and I thought about going under in this game. They're in a dome, and or if they open the roof up, it's probably because the weather's pleasant. But Woodruff struggling that last start with a total that low, I just don't love that angle. Instead, I'm going to go Cardinals plus 1.5 on the run line. It's minus 158 right now with a B pick. My logic behind this is a couple of things. First off, getting the run line with the road team makes a lot of sense if it's tight, because if it goes extras, either the Cardinals win or it's going to be harder, not impossible, for the Brewers to win by more than one if it is that tight game that we're kind of expecting. If Woodruff blows up, the Cardinals just win. There's a lot of ways we can get to the window. And specifically, I'm going to give you another angle. I own Josh Hader in fantasy, so I paid attention to this. He's pitched the last 2 days. On top of that, Boxberger's pitched the last 2 days. On top of that, Devin Williams has pitched the last 2 days. And so I'm not sure exactly how much their bullpen has left. So I know the model is saying, that the Brewers should still be favored, but I don't think I buy that really. I think the Cardinals are the side here. Wainwright's fantastic. And I think that's the way you want to look, especially with the Brewers bullpen situation. They're either going to have guys who can't pitch today or shouldn't be pitching today. I think that gives Cardinals the edge. And like I said, if it's a tight one, I like plus 1.5. If it goes to extras, I don't have to sweat it because I'm pretty sure we're going to be winners. Because, Jared, what do you got?
Yeah, that nugget about the Brewers bullpen makes me feel even better about this pick. I'm on the run line with the Cardinals as well. I was eyeing the Cardinals yesterday when I was looking ahead to these lines. Saw the professor's numbers and no value on the Cardinals where the money line's currently at. But the picking the run line with the Cardinals perfectly aligns with what my thinking was here. The Brewers' bats can just disappear at times.
Yep.
And so I think getting a 1.5 against, while going against Wainwright for the Brewers, I think this is a perfect scenario for a low-scoring game. So I think getting that 1.5 will be really valuable. And also, this is for the top of the NL Central, right? For sure, definitely the best 2 teams there. So I think there's going to opening day there for the Brewers, like you mentioned. I think it's going to be a good, tight, really exciting game.
I agree with you. Like, yes, this is for the top of the division, but given how bad the Brewers bats have been, and given how 2 of their 3 main starters, struggled their first time through, that's just a crazy thought to me to think that the Brewers would be up there that good. They don't seem like a division title contender.
Well, yeah, especially if those guys in the Brewers bullpen aren't going to be available today, which we don't know that. But if they're not, then that's a huge part of how they win a lot of games.
Yep, absolutely. Definitely a fantastic bullpen there. 6:35 Eastern, first pitch, Nationals at Pirates. I don't have a lot to say on this one other than I think Brewbreaker is the better pitcher, and Adon got hit around last game. I think he gets hit around again. I think we should fade him before people realize he's not that good. The model thinks Pirates minus 123. I'll lay that exact number with the Pirates minus 123 with a B pick. Weather-wise, it's going to be chilly, but wind blowing out to left. So and again, Brewbaker, a pitcher that can be pretty decent for Pittsburgh, but I don't trust Adon for the Nationals. So Really nothing for me on the total. I think the Pirates are not the better team, but I think they have the better pitching matchup today. And so I think that tilts this game to their favor. Minus 123 Pirates B pick for me.
So I mentioned earlier that a lot of value on some of these bad teams. Well, when two bad teams play each other, it's sometimes hard to find value. So
That's
this
true.
is a pass for me. I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. And these aren't, either one of these teams really have just had a lot of value so far from where the numbers have been set. So nothing here for me.
This is one of those that reminds me, we talked about this with our college football podcast. You don't have to watch them to make the monies, right? This is one of those, like,
100%.
if you want to play it, great. If you want to stay away, great. Either way, you don't got to watch this game. There's other ones on.
Yep.
6:40 Eastern, first pitch, Phillies at the Marlins. Kyle Gibson and Sandy Alcantara. I kind of badmouthed Gibson last start, and he had maybe the best start so far of this season up until yesterday. Had a couple of good ones yesterday with obviously Kershaw and Logan Webb, but until that, probably the best start of the season, first time through. So this one's tough for me to find value on. The model thinks it should be Marlins minus 108, which falls squarely in between the money line prices for either team. I'll go under 7.5. It's plus 102 right now, only with a C pick as the lean. I don't love the number being that low, but hey, Gibson looked great last game. I'm going to see if he can do it again. I trust Alcantara. I trust low-scoring games in that ballpark. That's what we tend to see. That ballpark is pretty cavernous, and the Marlins, not really a lot of good bats. But with such a low number in the Phillies offense, possibly, having the ability to score a lot of runs is not one that I have a ton of confidence in. I'd rather go under 8. So if the number goes up, maybe I like that a little bit more, but at 7.5, just a lean for me under on this game. Because Jared, what do you got?
Yeah, my first thought was here, wanting to fade the Marlins. I think the Phillies are going to be pretty respectable this year. The Marlins are the Marlins, but if you don't watch very closely, the Marlins have some pretty good pitchers. They're young. They're not always going to be super consistent necessarily, but they're going to come out and they're going to throw some gems as well. So I think this one's too close for me to make a call. Alcantara could come out and have a great game, so I'm staying away from this one.
Yep, and the Marlins bullpen has just a ton of guys who are very solid. Like, not a lot of like amazing pitchers there, but I feel like the Marlins like 5th best reliever is probably better than like half the teams in the league 5th best reliever, which is kind of a weird thing to say about the Marlins. But like they've got depth, which definitely can help in case the starter doesn't go deep. So like you said, it's a tough one there on the side for sure. I'll go under just as a lean, not what I love. 7:05 Eastern, first pitch. The only game starting at the 7 o'clock hour. Blue Jays at the Yankees. So far, we've had some fun ones between these two teams. Let's see if we can have another one tonight. Gausman versus Severino. Cousin Jared, what's your angle on this one?
So second behind the A's not getting any respect at all is I have no idea what the odds makers have been doing with the Blue Jays in this series. If you would have backed, to me, the Blue Jays are a very good team, and the Yankees are good as well. But in my mind, there's no way that you can come in and, be getting plus odds with the Blue Jays every game in this series against the Yankees. It's definitely been profitable to back them at those plus odds so far. So for me, this is an easy play here. I have to give props to the professor. Good call on Gausman last week. You said that you weren't quite sure that he was going to be exactly everything that he thought he was last year, and that certainly proved to be true. But he's going against Severino here. Severino only went 3 innings, I think, in his first start. Who knows how long he's going to go into this one. I still favor the pitching matchup for Toronto here, and I'm getting plus odds again for reasons I don't understand. So this seems like an easy play for me with Toronto.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm taking the Blue Jays. It's plus 114 right now. B pick for me. The model thinks it should be 107. So the model thinks there's value. I think there's value. And Cousin Jared, you mentioned this earlier about keeping an eye on the numbers and seeing where they move. It's not always the best strategy just to blindly do it. But if you kind of have a side that you kind of like, but you don't love the number, maybe just, again, follow it throughout the day. You mentioned, we were texting yesterday that you had the Blue Jays, that based off of the morning number, there was no model edge. But as the number moved away from the Blue Jays, you got some better odds and then cash that ticket. So kind of the same thing here. We talk about when to make some of these plays. My hunch is that there should be more Yankees money coming in because that's what we see. Again, you never exactly know that. So it's not crazy to go ahead and get a little in at plus 114, maybe hold a little bit back and say if it gets better, I can add a little bit more to that just because if there's more Yankees money coming in, it gives you even better value on the Blue Jays. 2 pitchers that I don't really know what to expect from. And so, like you said, the Blue Jays are good. The Yankees are good. Give us plus odds. And see if the Blue Jays can pull it out again. Maybe Vlad will hit 3 more just absolute bombs like he did last night.
Yeah.
8:05 Eastern, first pitch. Angels at the Rangers. Dane Dunning versus a guy you may have heard of, Shohei Ohtani. He does the pitching and the hitting, I guess. Which is
good at baseball. I've heard
good at baseball. Yeah, like what we should all aspire to be as young baseball players. The model thinks the Angels should be a -129 favorite. Again, that falls squarely in between what the number is right now, so no side edge for me. But I'm going to go under 8.5. It's -107 right now, and I'm going to make this an A play. Dunning is not a bad pitcher for the Rangers. Ohtani, obviously not a bad pitcher for the Angels. We do have to watch out for the random blow-up that Ohtani has, but he was fantastic in that first start. If he's anything like that here tonight, the Angels' bats are just not good. I see it being hard to have that many runs scored here, and the new Rangers ballpark plays much more as a pitcher's park than the old one did as a just straight hitter's park. So I like under 8.5 as an A pick for me on this one. Cousin Jared, what do you think?
Guys, I am just following the professor here. When he really likes some of these total plays, that has been the way to go. So I'm just going to follow him on this one. Under seems like a great play based on everything he just said.
There you go. 8:10 Eastern, first pitch. Tigers at the Royals. Casey Mize versus Zach Greinke. The model thinks that the Royals should be a -125 favorite, so I'm going to play the Royals at -122 as a B pick. A little bit of value there. Right now, 2 pitchers that are pretty good. Greinke having his start delayed from yesterday. A lot of pitchers that might mess up. Greinke, I think, just does not care. It's not gonna bother him whatsoever.
No. I know he doesn't care. I'm not saying I know he doesn't care.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen the stories about Zach Greinke, that can be some fun. If you're bored at work today, just Google through the stories about the Greinke and the stuff he says. He's a very funny guy, a very unique personality. I like the Royals to get this done at home just because it's a short number here. So I'll give you a B play on the Royals -122.
I am also backing the Royals here, but the reason for me is because we've been on the Tigers a lot so far this year. So when the model made this turn and backed the Royals, that caught my eye, making me think that the model is seeing something that I can't see myself. So you mentioned early in the season just trusting the model. Maybe as the season goes on, I kind of learn the model a little bit better, and this is something I shy away from. But for right now, that kind of quick turn the model made kind of caught my eye. So I'm backing the Royals here as well.
Yep, and you talked about that as the season goes along. Once we get into May and really into June, we'll have a better idea of which teams the model, which pitchers the model is really missing on. And so we'll be able to kind of say, don't trust it here, don't trust it there. Early on, it's better to just trust it more times than not. That's led to good profits here. So good point there. The wind will be out to right field about 10 miles an hour, but the temperatures will be chilly. So nothing really there I like on the total because that's kind of some conflicting information on that one. 8:10 Eastern, first pitch. Braves at the Padres. Charlie Morton and Joe Musgrove, 2 former Astros that you and I both know very well. As good as the Astros pitchers are this year, they've got some depth. I would love to have either one of these guys still in the rotation personally. Because, Jared, what's your take on this one?
So I don't know if man crush is too strong of a word, but I think I probably qualify as man crush on both of these guys. Yeah. So I will tell the listeners, I have no problem admitting I am completely biased when it comes to this game. I think both of these pitchers are great, and playing in that ballpark in San Diego usually helps the unders. At least that's my perception. I don't know if that's reality. That's my perception. So I feel like the under 8 here is a great play because both of these guys can just completely shut down offenses. If Charlie Morton has that, Uncle Charlie going, who's going to get a hit at all?
Right.
So I think the under 8 is the way to look here. These are 2 great pitchers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an A play for me under 8. It is juiced very heavily right now, -125. So if you're also shopping around, you can lay under 7.5 and get much better odds. I like that as well. Neither one of those numbers is a problem for me. I don't see any runs being scored in this game. The temperature will be around 60 degrees. The wind's blowing across, so it's not going to affect it. And not going to give us any extra home runs there. 2 pitchers that, like you say, are very good. With regards to the side, I think it's I give the Braves a 50.3% chance to win That's 50.3, not 53. And right now the money line is minus 105 for both sides. So no edge on the side for me, but I think under is the way to look. We saw yesterday the Padres playing in San Francisco, and that was a low number, that 7.5, and it was a 2-1 game. I see this being a similar 2-1 type game. That doesn't mean it will be exactly that low scoring, but something like that with just two great pitchers and a pitcher's park. We have to watch out for the Braves offense just randomly decides to score like 16 runs, but otherwise the Braves offense hasn't been that great this year.
Very inconsistent, to say the least.
Yeah, and the Padres offense, again, hasn't been that great. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to like this under.
Yeah, I don't want to be negative, but you've already kind of touched on the Padres management of their pitching staff. And so I'm just really hoping that Musgrove doesn't fall into that same trap. I haven't seen anything so far this year that makes me think that, but, just a little paranoia.
And thankfully with that, it hasn't seemed to affect Musgrove. It hasn't affected Manaea. I'm not really sure exactly what it is with the pitch usage, and it could just be that, from my perception, it's kind of if we have a guy who does what he wants to do and that's good, great, but they don't know how to actually improve a pitcher and they don't know how to really work him into becoming better. And so, they get Manaea. Manaea's already good, and so Manaea is good, right? As opposed to, and then of course the injury management, right? Darvish having the injury issues, Lamet having the injury issues, and just kind of mismanaging some of those situations as well.
Yeah, so it's basically what you're saying is the exact opposite of the Diamondbacks' current situation.
Exactly. Yep. 8:40 Eastern, first pitch, Cubs at the Rockies. Justin Steele versus Kyle Freeland. What's your take on this one, Cousin Jared?
So anybody who watched the college football podcast knew that I like to take unders. And I was even accused of not wanting to see points, that I wanted to take all the fun out of the game. Well,
that was said.
Yeah, so in this situation, I can't say you're necessarily wrong. I am betting the under 11 here out of principle. Okay, that is 11 runs. I understand they're playing at Coors Field, but the Cubs, they've been fine so far this year. But going up and down that lineup, you're not like, oh man, that's a big hitter coming up. I'm really worried about that. I love Wilson Contreras. I have him in fantasy baseball, but he's been batting number 3. If Wilson Contreras is your number 2 or 3 hitter, you're not the best offensive team.
Yeah, if he's betting 6-hole, look out.
Yeah, but not at 2 or 3. So this is a principal play for me. I'm betting the under 11. I know it's Coors Field, but that's a really high number with a Cubs team that, who knows how many runs they're going to be able to score.
I'm going under 11 too. I'm going B pick, only not an A, because Coors Field, sometimes weird things happen.
Yeah.
Otherwise, though, I really like this pick. Both pitchers are decent. I talked last time with Kyle Freeland. He knows how to pitch in Coors. I had the under with him last time, and that one, he's not one that has those extreme splits. The weather also really lines up for an under. If you look at what the weather forecast is supposed to be, we're going to start off around in the mid-50s, and by the time the game ends, we'll be down into the mid-upper 40s. I mean, very cold. Wind is blowing, but it's across the field, so there's going to be no extra boost there. So, I mean, with the cold temperatures and no wind effect, we've definitely got under weather, a pitcher who knows how to pitch there in Freeland, a Cubs offense that isn't that great, a Rockies offense that isn't that great too. I mean, you talked about the Cubs offense. You could do the same thing with the Rockies offense. Charlie Blackmon is not good and, accumulate some stats because they constantly bat him 1 or 2 hole. But I mean, Blackmon in 1 or 2 hole is not good. Full stop, right?
Yeah. And Chris Bryant's not what he used to be either. But at least the Rockies have some names that kind of catch your attention if you're just glancing at the lineups, whereas the Cubs don't even have that really.
Sure, yeah, they have some names, but I don't think they're that good, right? And that's the idea, is that they have a couple decent hitters. Bryant's a solid hitter for sure, but I mean, they just are not the days of Blackmon in his prime and Story and Arenado and that just massive 3, 4, 5. You look at them now, the meat of their lineup is not anything to be revered. I just think 11 is way too high.
Wait, you're telling me Todd Helton and Larry Walker aren't trotting out for the Rockies right now?
Yeah, Todd Helton and Larry Walker. Well, and if they are, I don't think they will do that great after this many years off and the aging curve there. So under 11 B pick for me there. The model thinks the Rockies should be a -117 favorite. So as of the time of this recording, no side edge to speak of as well. So just an FYI for you there. And then one late game, 10:10 Eastern, first pitch, 7:10 local time, out on the West Coast, Cincinnati at the Dodgers. Luis Cessa versus Walker Buehler. The model makes this Dodgers -223. I have to caution you on these giant edges. if the model says play the dog, you have to look a little deeper into it. The model, as any mathematical model, sometimes struggles with outliers. And so that's not to say if the model says play a dog, that's really big. It doesn't mean don't play it. It just means do a little bit more investigation before you blindly back it, because these outlier cases are just harder to understand. There's less data points around there. The model is just not going to be as good as it is for most of the games where the win probabilities fall more in the 40 to 60% range. The model thinks the Dodgers have about a 70% chance of winning this. The money line price is way too high on the Dodgers at 252. I would not recommend laying that, because anything can happen in baseball. Buehler has one bad inning and all of a sudden you're sweating. You've laid a huge price. Because the money line isn't a good value, that probably says the run line isn't good value too, especially we talked about it's less than ideal to play run line favorites at home. Doesn't mean I won't do it. I did it yesterday. It didn't work out. So for the sides on this one, I'm just going to pass. I'm going to go total 8.5. I'm going to go over with a C pick. I don't think that Luis Cessa is that good. The Reds seem to be kind of playing some high scoring games, a little surprising. Mm-hmm. If their bats can keep it going, all they got to do is get a handful of runs off the Dodgers. The Dodgers will definitely score some runs tonight off of Cessa.
The Guardians made the Reds pitching staff look highly questionable yesterday. The Dodgers could potentially do much more damage than that.
Absolutely, with this all-star lineup the Dodgers have. And then just looking at the weather, the wind will be about 14, starting off at 14 miles an hour, closing about 10 miles an hour. So double-digit winds blowing out to right, out to center. So some extra wind help there. The temperatures will be chilly, so it's not an over that I really like. If the temperatures were more in the 70s as it is, they'll be about 60 degrees. So a little chillier. So it's not an over that I'm dying to have, but I'll give a lean over 8.5. Reds have been in high scoring games. This one probably can too. What do you think?
Yeah. So you kind of pranced around it there. I'll just come out and say it. Don't back the Dodgers in this game, people. Like, if you want to do the run line with the Dodgers, that's fine. If you want to play the Reds money line, that's fine. That's a huge number there. But just don't lay the 225 or whatever it is.
252.
252 Dodgers. Good Lord, the Dodgers money line. That's just way too much. If you want to play the Dodgers, do the run line. If you want to play the Reds, that's fine. Just don't lay that much with the Dodgers, please.
Yep, I agree with that. That's all we have for you today. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Picks with the Professor. Reminder, check out the Google Sheet for model projections and results. You can find that link at the website, www.pickswiththeprofessor.com. If you haven't done so yet, click that subscribe button to ensure all the sports betting content we provide on this channel is dropped right into your feed. I will see you tomorrow, and until then, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.